this land is Britain. It is a small country encircled and challenged forever by a sea that beats and chafes on the rocky edges of an island. It is a small nation. It covers less of the world than one American state. It's smaller by far than one Soviet republic. Yet it is curiously various. A cosmopolitan people who have absorbed the races of the world since that last Norman conquest 9 centuries ago, living together in a coherent society that finds a comparable dignity in the crofters' cottages and the great houses of the past. From their earliest days, they scattered their countryside with the monuments to their faith, and as the small and simple churches merged into the face of the land, other great cathedrals grew to proclaim their own splendid certainties of stone and spire. The profile of Britain is one of continuity, challenge, and change. Here Shakespeare wrote his sonnets, Milton of Paradise Lost, and Karl Marx of his picture of a paradise he never found. And the heart of the place is, of course, London. An argumentative, restless place, like all places where people insist upon being meaningful and value their right to stroll and stand and stare and dispute as they will, within the context of a fundamental constitutional core. Every British Parliament is opened by the sovereign, driving in state from Buckingham Palace to the Palace of Westminster. This is a ritual as old as democracy, and, perhaps surprisingly, part of it.
My Lords and members of the House of Commons, throughout the coming session, my government will continue to give resolute support to the work of the United Nations. The improvement of relations between East and West remains a primary object of their policy.
The system is archaic and odd and enduring. You don't try to rationalize a historical continuity that stretches from Plantagenet kings to Victorian politicians. Today, the British reach one more punctuation mark in a long and crowded story. How often have they been written off by enemies, despaired of by friends? How often have they confounded them by continuing so obstinately to survive, and indeed to prosper? It took resource and a notable capacity for absorbing derision with equanimity, if not indeed a certain perverse pride. It also took invention and some resoundingly good ideas. In 1919, the atom was first smashed by Lord Rutherford at Cambridge. 100 years earlier, James Watt, the Scotsman from Greenock, observed the curiosity that steam was strong. He harnessed its pressure to the wheel and changed the face of the world. In 1825, George Stephenson went one better, and between Stockton and Darlington was built the world's first public railroad. The British invented the bicycle and put the world on wheels. It then became obviously necessary to invent the pneumatic tire. They invented the sandwich, named after the noble lord who simultaneously invented built-in indigestion. They produced the electric light bulb, thus ensuring one more permanent issue of domestic dispute. They gave the world steel and steamships, and were then obliged to invent radar and television. They built and flew the world's first passenger-carrying jet aircraft, discovered the neutron, key to nuclear fission. Their molecular biologists found the genetic clue to all human identity. But their own identity, what of that now? Never before have the British so earnestly and objectively examined themselves and their institutions in fair weather and, well, the usual kind.